So what does it mean to be holy? This is an important question. The word appears over and over again. In last week's Parsha especially, called Kedoshim, holy, but in this week's Parsha too. When we think of holiness, we might imagine lofty figures, saints, mystics, or priests wrapped in sacred rituals far removed from the hustle of our daily lives. Perhaps we picture ourselves as too ordinary, too caught up in work, family, or the morning rush to ever be able to aspire to holiness. But the Torah challenges that notion with a vision of holiness that is grounded in practical human encounters. In Parashat Emor, the Torah outlines the holiness that is special for the Kohanim, for the priests. We read the following in verse 6. Kedoshim yihiyu le'elohehem. They shall be holy to their God. Velo yichalelu shem Elohehem. Because if they are not, they will desecrate God's name. Ki et ishei Adonai lechem Elohehem makrivim. They have an important role. They are the ones delivering the sacrifices, and then again at the end of the verse, V'hayu kodesh. Don't forget, be holy. The priests perform an important function. It sounds exalted, serving in the temple, mediating between God and Israel. But as you read the verses, as you read forward, you see that the holiness that they embody is deeply grounded in reality. They're forbidden from defiling themselves through contact with the dead, except for their closest relatives. That's an important exception, because through it, the Torah is explaining that their holiness is not about abandoning people, especially their family, not about suppressing their emotions. They are expected to grieve, to love, to honor their human bonds. Their sanctity is not about isolation, but about living faithfully with the messiness of life. Later in the Parsha, but truly in last week's Parsha, God speaks to all of Israel, declaring, Kedoshim tihiyu ki kadosh ani Adonai Elohechem. Not just the priests have to be holy. You all have to be holy. All of you, for I, the Lord your God, am holy. This is an extraordinary commandment. In Judaism, holiness is not just reserved for a select few. It is a calling for every one of us, woven into the fabric of our everyday choices. What follows in the Torah is an extraordinary tapestry of commandments that blends the spiritual with the ethical. If you paid attention to the reading today, the holidays are right there next to the obligations to the poor. They are blended together. Every one of you shall revere his mother and father, and you shall keep my Sabbaths. Honoring parents, a deeply human act, stands beside honoring the Sabbath, a divine rhythm. The Torah continues, don't steal, don't deal falsely, don't lie to one another, don't curse the deaf, don't put a stumbling block before the blind, don't hate your brother in your heart. And when you reap the harvest of your field, do not wholly reap the corners. Leave them for the poor and the stranger. These are not mystical feats. These are instructions for building a just and compassionate society. That is what the Torah calls holiness. It's about engaging with the world, our families, our neighbors, and even strangers in ways that reflect God's presence. It is not about chasing supernatural experiences or worshiping amulets. The Torah forbids that. Instead, holiness lives in the ordinary, in speaking truthfully, in showing kindness, in leaving gleanings for the poor. As one scholar notes, quote, "The sanctity that the Torah demands is human sanctity, proper behavior between people, not mystical sanctity." End quote. Holiness is universal, a thread running through every role and every life, but it challenges modern notions. Today we might see holiness as seclusion. The Torah counters this, urging us to find sanctity in relationships, in fairness, in the quiet dignity of doing what's right. Consider how this applies in our world. In a culture that celebrates wealth and fame, the Torah asks us to value integrity over profit, compassion over competition. When we choose to tip a server generously, or listen to a struggling friend, or stand up for someone who's being treated unfairly, we're not just being nice. The Torah says you are being holy. The Torah's holiness is a radical call to live differently, to make God's presence tangible in every interaction. Rabbi Aryeh Levin was known as the Tzaddik of Jerusalem. He lived in the city from 1885 to 1969 when he passed away. In the early 20th century, Jerusalem was not like it is today. Jerusalem was a city of tremendous hardship. Many families, often new immigrants or pogrom survivors, lived in cramped, crumbling homes, scraping by on meager wages or nothing at all. Poverty was a silent burden, and pride often kept people from asking for help. Into this world stepped Rabbi Levin, a modest scholar, but with a heart as wide as the Torah itself. He made it his mission to ease the suffering that he saw around him, but he did so with extraordinary humility. Each week he would wander Jerusalem's narrow alleys at dusk, carrying baskets of bread, vegetables, and warm clothing. Knowing the shame that could come with charity, he never knocked on doors or revealed his identity. Instead, he left his gifts on doorsteps, slipping away into the shadows before anyone could spot him. One family, struggling after the father fell ill, found a pair of sturdy shoes perfectly fit for their growing daughter, left silently outside their home. Another discovered a small pouch of coins tucked inside a loaf of bread, just enough to pay for a doctor's visit. When neighbors whispered about the mysterious benefactor, Rabbi Levin stayed quiet, deflecting any gratitude with a gentle smile or a change of subject. But his kindness extended beyond material gifts. Rabbi Levin was known for visiting prisoners in Jerusalem's jails, many of whom were forgotten by society. He'd sit with them and listen to their stories and offer them words of hope, and he never sought recognition. One prisoner, a young man jailed for a minor theft, later recalled how Rabbi Levin brought him a prayer book and a warm scarf, treating him not as a criminal, but as a soul worthy of dignity. "He made me feel human again," the man said. Rabbi Levin's actions were anonymous, not for secrecy's sake, but because he believed true kindness needs no spotlight. Why did he do this? Well, he believed that his acts were a direct response to the Torah's commandment to love your neighbor as yourself and to care for the vulnerable without fanfare. He once remarked, "What I do is nothing special. It's what any Jew should do for another." Yet his quiet generosity transformed countless lives, bringing hope and dignity to those who felt invisible. By giving without expecting reward, Rabbi Levin embodied the human sanctity the Torah demands, showing that holiness shines brightest in the unseen moments of compassion, in the choice to lift others up without seeking applause. How do we live this call to human holiness in our own lives? Well, the Torah gives us a roadmap, and Rabbi Levin's example lights the way. We always start with our relationships. If you're lucky enough to have parents still living, honor them, not just with words, but with time. Call them, visit, cherish their stories. Be honest in all your dealings, whether it's a business contract or a casual promise. In the workplace, choose integrity over cutting corners, even when no one is watching. If you're a teacher, a nurse, or a neighbor, look for the vulnerable, those who, like Jerusalem's poor, might be too proud or too weary to ask for help. A small gesture, like checking on a lonely neighbor or donating to a food bank, can echo Rabbi Levin's doorstep gifts. Holiness also means staying connected to God's rhythm, keeping Shabbat not just as a day off, but as a sanctuary to reflect on what matters: family, faith, the beauty of the world. In a world of distractions, avoid modern idols, materialism, envy, or the pressure to perform to get likes and followers. Social media can tempt us to seek validation, but the Torah calls us to act for God's sake, not for applause. Instead, focus on justice, mercy, and walking humbly with God. As a community, we are called to be a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. This doesn't mean we wear priestly robes or live in a temple. It means we bring God's presence into our homes, workplaces, and neighborhoods, volunteer at a local shelter, mentor a struggling student, or simply listen to someone who feels unheard. Every time we choose compassion over anger, truth over deceit, or generosity over indifference, we are answering the call to be holy. And don't be afraid to act quietly like Rabbi Levin. A kind deed done in secret can ripple outwards, touching lives in ways you may never see. I would submit that the Torah's call to holiness is nothing less than a revolution. It is a defiant stand against the currents of our world, especially. In a culture obsessed with wealth, fame, and instant gratification, holiness dares us to choose differently. It dares us to value integrity over profit, compassion over competition, and quiet kindness over self-promotion. To be holy is to swim against the tide, to reject the idols of materialism and ego that clamor for our worship. It's to live as Rabbi Levin did, leaving gifts in the shadows, not for applause, but because every soul deserves dignity. It is to embody the Torah's radical vision, where a single act of justice, a meal shared, a hand extended, a truth spoken, becomes a spark of the divine. Kedoshim tiyu, ki kadosh ani Adonai Elohechem. Be holy, for I, the Lord your God, am holy. This is no gentle suggestion. It is a challenge to reshape our lives, to make every choice a rebellion against indifference, to weave God's presence into the fabric of a broken world. We are not too ordinary. We are not too busy. We are not too small. We are called to be a holy nation, a light in the darkness, a people who dare to live differently. So let us go forth this week with fire in our hearts. Let our kindness defy cynicism, our honesty disrupt deceit, our love overturn apathy. Shabbat Shalom.